Well, it seems that it is common knowledge now that AI is not going to take over the entire planet. It has a lot of hallucinations and flaws. Something still remains, and it's the fact that AI companies are very good at marketing. That has not gone away. And the problem is that they market this thing called AGI. And so in this video, I will thoroughly explain why AGI is not a realistically possible thing, because many people seem to not understand these concepts. First of all, we must understand what is the average human's intelligence. We can list off some important attributes right here, like spatial reasoning, pattern recognition, things like, I don't know, on a chessboard, recognizing patterns on a chessboard or patterns on a Rubik's Cube, things like that. What else? Maybe intuitive reasoning we can add as well. And so, do you notice anything about these things? Spatial reasoning, intuitive reasoning, especially, I think this is a very important point over here, is that you have to understand what you are doing in front of you. So we have all of these forms of intelligence, but AI currently right now, or the AGI that all of these companies are saying that they have achieved, is fundamentally doing fake it till you make it. And this is the problem here, because many people don't understand how AI works from the inside. And so when they see like ChatGPT explain something, or when they hear the word like reasoning, right? Oh, AI can reason because they have that little feature where they can do the think mode. They think that AI actually has an understanding of what is going on. And that's the problem, is that it does not. Where you can consciously perceive 2 plus 2 equaling to 4 for some concrete reason, right? Because when you look at 2, you count them up, it's 4, right? You can get to this conclusion many ways, and you can kind of perceive it and internalize it in a way that AI can simply not understand. Now, all of these forms of intelligence, you could say you could measure in some kind of, very convenient little number, maybe. But the thing is that they are all like generated through IQ tests, right? And AI is obviously going to master a test because it's been trained to recognize how to answer to those questions. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that the average human intelligence is made of these things, and what encompasses them is consciousness, is this kind of ability to internalize a concept, is to consciously understand something and to recognize, okay, this is this for this reason, and logic through it. Whereas AI, it just predicts the next thing to say. Now, you may argue that humans also are just predicting the next thing to say. We're just very advanced. This is a question for you over here. How do you feel? I'm not asking you about like how's your day and how was life today. I'm asking you, if I pinch you right now, then a neuron signal, okay, you understand that a neuron signal is sent to your brain, but how do you feel that sensation? Okay, there's chemicals that are produced, and the chemicals stimulate the neurons in my brain, and the chemical, okay, but how do you feel the sensation? You know what I mean? That's called consciousness. That's something that we still don't know in science. How are people conscious, right? And like, what is consciousness specifically? What is it like what is this thing like subjective experience and understandings and all this stuff? That fundamentally is like nature's the best route to intelligence, is to be able to feel and think and like perceive, right? Because it's just like an animal, right? It needs a signal, right? Like a pinch, so that it can know that, oh my God, there's danger, or it needs to hear some rustling in the sounds to know there's danger, and then come to the intelligent conclusion that it got to get out of there, right? So consciousness is this thing that we don't even know yet. So fundamentally, we cannot get it into an AGI system if we do not have that. It will not be able to internalize a concept fundamentally. It will only predict the next thing that it has to say. So that's what I want you to understand. Consciousness versus predictor. And so, yeah, consciousness being the only method to intelligence that we actually know of, and predicting being just a nice way to fake everything that this yields, which is like all of these things over here, right? But it's not actually real. And with that, we come to a very important thing, is to explain what this predictor thing actually is. So what is this predictor? Well, I am very glad that you asked, even though you did not, most certainly. But I called it a predictor. Well, it is a statistical model, just like any other statistical model, that is built to just predict the next thing. And it fundamentally is an input-output system, which is very important to know, where it just receives an input and then it does everything to generate the right output. So let's look at how the training process goes down. What is actually training? You've heard of training. You don't know what it actually means, though. You know that they put data into it, but how exactly? You have like, for example, we're going to take, I don't know, our good old friend, the copyright stealing monster. That's supposed to be ChatGPT. Anyway, so you take a phrase, quick brown fox, right? That sentence, quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. You take that, it's converted into tokens, which are like numbers, right? So it becomes a bunch of, and the word quick is like 139 and so on and so on. That gets put into the model. The model has a mathematical algorithm to do all of the necessary calculations to figure out what kind of output to give. And when it's first being trained, when the AI model is completely fresh, like has not been trained before, you just have the mathematical algorithm, then it uses what's called weights and biases. These are like variables within the algorithm that are random initially. They're entirely random. They're just a bunch of like numbers, just 1, 3, 5, like just random numbers. Well, they're actually like point decimals, but whatever. And it generates some goofy output, which is like 6346, right, for example. And that translates to, in human words, to like like some random garbage, right? That doesn't make any sense. And then there's another algorithm called an optimizer that takes this output, looks at bruh, and looks at quick brown fox, and let's say the correct phrase was jumped over the lazy dog, right? Jumped over, so on. Right? So quick brown fox is what it's looking at, and it's supposed to predict jumped over the lazy dog. And so the optimizer looks at this, says, bro, you were nowhere near that. How the hell did you come up to that conclusion? It takes those weights and biases, those random variables that are from initially initialized just random, and then adjust them just a little bit, and then next time another phrase is thrown in, let's say, I don't know, quick brown toad, quick brown frog, right? New phrase becomes converted into numbers, right? 4, 5, 3, for example, something, some numbers. That's inserted, an output is given. It's gibberish still, but it's a little bit better. The optimizer says, okay, you did a little bit of a better job, and then it does another optimization, and this cycle constantly keeps going with the massive amounts of data till finally the AI system generates a proper output. It says, oh, quick brown frog jumped over the lazy, I don't know, snail, whatever, right? And it actually begins working. And so that's how the training process goes down. And so fundamentally you can now see how it is fake it till you make it, because when I tell you what is 2 plus 2, you can visualize it, you can count it, Of course, it's a pattern that you've been recognized, that you have been like, there's like, oh, the teacher also rewarded you for doing that in the same way that the optimizer. So technically you could say that you're kind of like an AI that's being taught by an optimizer, but really it's different because of consciousness, which is what I mentioned before, is because you can internalize it and understand why that is. Whereas training is just like a predicting kind of model. And so of course, AI is very impressive. But now you know why AGI is not an actual thing, because of the reason that it's just a predictor. It doesn't have the ability to internalize knowledge and like understand it and have a kind of sensation that we don't even know what a sensation even is yet. We don't even know what consciousness is yet. And so until a neuroscientific breakthrough, we cannot say that AGI, at least in the definition of human intelligence, has been achieved. It can fake being as smart as a human, but all of a sudden, if you put it into novel situations, it's going to start failing and proving itself to be a predictor. And so it is a good tool. Like if you need to, if you needed to do your essay for you because you can't be bothered with assignments, that is a great use. If you need it to be used for I don't know, something higher up, like what people are doing it for like therapy, then you should probably, stop using the internet entirely, right? Because it's just a predictor. It's literally saying things to satisfy an optimizer that it thinks exists when it's speaking to you. So yeah, don't fall for the marketing. If you are building something on the side though, like a website or app or whatever, I suggest you use Stellar AI for that. It can greatly accelerate your progress in that and make sure you don't quit it or like abandon the project and actually get it done. Goodbye.